Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Fresh Business Thinking with me, Finn. And I'm joined today with Michael Frackowiak from Bespoke Shirt Club. Michael, tell me, how did it go with your surname there?
I think you would get some marks, positive marks for that. So there is in the Olympic Games that they say like figure skating, it's like 8.2, 8.3. So you'll be 8.3. I think.
All
Out of
right,
10.
okay,
So that's
okay,
all right.
I'm happy with that. Strictly is the new Olympics, isn't it?
Ah, yeah, okay, forgot about that. Yes. Sorry.
So, listen, really appreciate you taking the time to come and have a chat with me today. And we're all about fresh thinking, but that's around business. So why don't you tell me first about Bespoke Shirt Club and what you do?
Awesome. Thank you so much, obviously, for having me. But it's kind of very interesting times that we're living through right now, especially kind of for my industry, which is all about clothing looking good, bespoke tailoring, bespoke shirts, that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, we end up in the situation where we have to deal with this. I probably would no one would ever think that we're going to get to a stage where there is no one going into the offices. There is no one wearing ties. When was the last time you wore a tie? Like a long time ago, right? And it's kind of, you could probably barely wear a shirt without, kind of not feeling as if you dress it up too much. Like it's we somehow living in this world right now where t-shirts and kind of short pants, it's okay, like it's fine, you can just live for a week like that, and you think, okay, but now I'm in this bespoke shirt and bespoke suits business, so how is this possible? And I see myself as a tailor. I'm a tailor, but I as the months, as the weeks of the lockdowns and this new world that we're living through sort of appear, I see myself more as a marketing, as a branding guy, as someone who's only ever going to be able to survive this going forward if they're going to change, if I figure this out, if I'm going to go in and say, okay, if we say that we're still making this shirts and suits and everything for someone who really wants to look good and has the means, but also the sort of willingness to do that, because that's kind of mindset change as well. We can talk about it later, but it has to, lots of things has to change. If tailors around the world, in the UK, around the world is the same situation, still waiting for customers to come into their stores to make three-piece suits, that day is numbered. These days are gone. I don't think we're ever going to end up in a situation like we used to have, that you just open shop, have a big sign, we open for business, and all of a sudden people are going to flog in, and then it's going to be like the old days. I don't think it's ever going to happen, especially for my industry. I think these days you have to be a lot more out there, LinkedIn, social media, video. You have to be sort of feeling comfortable around that. If you're not, you're going to struggle. You're going to have something else to offer, because just having a shop opened with big sign, we open for business, may not be enough.
Cool. I mean, yes, that's a lovely little summary of where we are. And we've all been dragged forwards about 5 or 10 years in terms of technology and business delivery. But I'm wondering if you're actually now then thinking, you work in a very traditional sector, and great as it is, but as you say, it stood still for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering then, have you actually got deeper into me as the consumer, my needs? And so now I'm maybe starting to dress differently. And so are you starting to think, if I'm getting you right, is you're starting to think, right, what does my consumer actually need? What was the fundamental need when they went to the tailor to get a nice suit or a nice shirt? Are you now thinking, how can I help Finlay present himself or make him feel good about himself in a different way? Are you actually starting to think like that?
It's the only way. Like, it's the only way to go. Like, there is no. This is also my opinion, and I think we chatted about this last time when we had a quick kind of brief talk. That, in my opinion, the kind of high street is no longer needed. High street is going to go sooner or later. And I think it's just COVID, as you said, sort of accelerated that change in the sense that why do we need high street? Just so someone can come in and just try something on and decide whether they want to buy or shop on. Like the high street is, there is no need for that in the sense that, because why is there no need for that? Because what they have is, think about how they work. They will go in and design something 8 to 12 months before it happens. So they would have designers of fall for the spring or summer collection, right? So they have to get the fortune teller skills. They have to think about what the consumer is going to want and then just produce it. And maybe they're going to be lucky, maybe not. See what happens. So how is that possible that they're going to be talking to exactly what customer wants? No chance, unless they, by chance, by luck, somehow it turns out that that's a trend because a footballer or a celebrity wore this, and all of a sudden that's a trend. But a lot of things go back to waste, back to some sort of places where, it comes from this shop to this shop, then all of a sudden go to outlet. That's it, because they didn't sort of get the trend. So that's exactly to your point about consumer needs and wants. I think the retail high street doesn't meet that. So they're going to go, new looks of this world, next of this world, massive. Primark is different because Primark wins on price. So Primark is always going to be there because Primark is just beating everyone else down with price. But all the kind of the vanilla brands, the I don't know, whatever else on high street you see that it's closed, that you have no association. Even if you try to think about the unique selling points, you wouldn't be able to figure this out. And then for years they've been open on high street and they were okay. And all of a sudden this hits. I was like, there is nothing else left with us because we've got no loyalty, no brand, no one really knows what we do. It's like bit of Marks and Sparks. You go in and you can buy the chicken breast as well as your skirt for summer, right? So it's a bit like that. You no idea what you're doing. So I think that's to your point. Like, how do you then step back and say, okay, what actually do consumer want? What do they want? And I think it's going back to your point on shirts. Okay, so if we produce shirts, what sort of shirts do people want? Maybe they need something that they have without a tie, maybe something with a slightly nicer collar, maybe something that if you have an open neck, maybe a bit of a check, maybe a bit of pattern, maybe actually something that has got little dolphins, dotted as a printed, because people are going to be looking at you on Zoom or face to face, but most likely Zoom, saying, oh, that's a nice shirt. Where did you get that shirt? You are, through clothing, allowing people to enter into your world. So you're inviting them in. So by wearing a pocket square or by wearing a nice tie or wearing a nice three-piece suit, people are going to stop and say, that's a nice suit, that's a nice shirt, where did you get it from? You're inviting them into conversation. Same as if you do a little monograms on your shirts, people are going to be like, oh, what does that say? What does that mean? 2014, why is that date special for you, etc. You invited them in. Retail brands, high street brands, they're not going to do it. Retail and high street. You have to kind of, high street is goosed. Retail is still obviously amazing because they can easily e-commerce. The likes of Boohoo and the likes of big brands that are pretty much only online, they are making killing right now. But that's because the retail is dead, and obviously the e-commerce side of things is good. But high street is gone. I don't think that we ever need. Look, listen, a month without high street open, we still survive, we're still looking good, you still looks as if you've got something to wear. I've got something to wear. I think we're going to be okay. I've got shoes, I've got shirts, I think I'm okay. So I do we need a high street? I don't think so. But meanwhile, I bought things online, e-commerce, throughout lockdown. I bought from Boohoo, I bought from places online, I bought from other kind of, I don't know, Thai brands that I like. Mm-hmm. I bought them online, it's so.
No, for sure. I mean, one that I'm using, I don't know what you think of this, is because I love what you do as a business, because you've got this, you sit almost right on the cusp between service and product. And I would say, as we get more to your end of the market, the service becomes more important. Whereas if I go into, one of those high street, I get virtually no service and it's all about product. And that's when what you said about it being really hit or miss, they go for the big check and hope that that's what works with the retailer. So the high level of service that I've been using is Thread.
Mm-hmm.
So someone tells me what I should buy. They just make it easy, because for me, I'm time poor. So that's the challenge for the high street. They close at 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock. But when am I?
And you go in and you stand in the queue, and you need to find a car parking space, and there is usually crowds, and maybe people don't like crowds anymore. Gone.
Yeah.
High street gone, goosed, gone. Let's not talk about it anymore.
I'm with you on that. Now, listen, what I should have said is, because some people will be listening and not watching, we'll broadcast this on YouTube and just on the podcast. You look great. This is a real visual one. So if you can, come over to Fresh on YouTube and have a look at Michael and his branding. And I'll talk about branding, because you mentioned some amazing points there about inviting people in to engage through your personal appearance, your clothes, and I think that's fascinating. We're living through another age of personal branding, and I don't know if you remember the last one, and then the one before that in the 80s. You're probably too young to remember that, when appearance was really important. Now, I'm happy to go with personal branding as long as people understand it properly, that it's not just superficial, because you're right. So that visual impression, that's the starting point. But you're right, someone has some sort of affinity to dolphins or the year 2014, and there's a story, and then that's personal branding for me, when we get a chance to connect about your first child being born in 2014, whatever it is.
100%. And mine was as well. And all of a sudden you've got that connection. Yeah. And I love dolphins as well. And boom, right? And all of a sudden you've got this connection that otherwise you wouldn't have had if you were just wearing a t-shirt, and no one, it's just another. I was telling this so many times to IT guys and people who are coming to me for advice, or they would come in and have some sort of, a chat with me, that sort of thing. And we would sit down and say, why don't you just wear a three-piece suit every time you go and see customer? We IT guys, we wear t-shirts. Okay, how many IT guys do you know that wear three-piece suits when going and service another customer? Well, we don't know anyone. Boom. Okay, so think about this. You're the only guy that's going to be wearing three-piece suit and a bow tie every time you're going to go and do the service visit to a customer. What's going to happen? They're not going to remember that you Bob Brown. They're not going to remember the company, barely can remember your name. But there is this guy, this IT guy, the bow tie IT guy. There is this funny story, I'm sure you've heard of this, and if not, maybe you listeners have, about this tuxedo plumber. Have you heard of that?
No, I've not heard about it.
So there was a story, and that's a true story. So there is a plumber, right? It's in America. He's a plumber, and he's going to a charity ball with his wife, and obviously wearing tuxedo, nice, and he's got a call from his customer saying, "Can you just come and fix this? Emergency leaks, that sort of thing." He's like, "I'm just on my way to the ball. Come on, I won't be doing this." No, you have to come. So he comes. He's like, "Let's go past him, and just jump in, quickly fix it," and we just carry on. And wife says, "Okay, fine." So he jumps out, goes to the guy's house, fixing his leak, and he comes out. What turns out to be that now this client of his says, "Oh, I just had my leak fixed by a tuxedo plumber." And all of a sudden, there is this brand called Tuxedo Plumber. And all of a sudden, it's like he's known in town for being a tuxedo plumber. So before he was just a plumber, now he's tuxedo plumber. Everyone knows him. Oh, we just don't want to have no plumber. We just want to have this tuxedo plumber guy. And he was carry on. So he's changed his brand. He changes the way how he carries business. His vans are right now Tuxedo Plumber, and he's the tuxedo plumber. So this is branding. This is what I call something that someone took the kind of opportunity, went with it, and it's theirs right now. And everyone else is going to be entering this realm, is going to be obviously copying or being inspired by, Tuxedo Plumber. But I think it just goes to show that the power is exactly in that. If you wear as a brand, as a person, if you can find that, just remembered something. It's in this topic. There is a guy called Jay Bear. He is marketer, a speaker, or something like that. And he says, he's an American guy, and he has written a book called something. It's going to come to me.
We'll find it. We'll put it in the notes.
Talking triggers, talk triggers, I think. And he talks about how a brand or a business can start talk triggers. So for instance, if you're the tuxedo plumber, or if you are, he was talking about a brand that they helped where they had a gloves, like normal kind of gloves for things, but they was a Canadian company, and inside those gloves they put a little maple syrup scent kind of thing, and they were branding themselves obviously Canadian maple syrup, that sort of thing, and it was smelling nice. And all of a sudden Canadian people were buying them because they smelled of maple syrup. And you think, these are the things, like, can I have the maple syrup gloves? You don't know the brand, but you know, it's kind of those little things, those talk triggers that help you move from this to this to this to this to this. And it's, and I think very often people also think that it's naff. You know, why would I wear a pink collar? You know, pink is for these sort of people. I'm a plumber. I should never wear pink. I'm whatever else, right? But think about it. Maybe that's, you know where I'm getting with this.
No, I'm with you.
A way for you to be different, to be recognizable, to remember. Don't lose your professionalism. Don't be a douchebag, or just, you cannot do any sort of marketing that covers bad product. I mean, you can, but it's going to be uncovered at some point, right? And just marketing can cover only so many things, and branding can cover only so many things. You still have to deliver that good shirt, deliver that good suit, deliver the good service, deliver good gloves, deliver good plumbing, right? That doesn't cover everything, but it's a very good, interesting start. I am, for instance, I'm using a Segway. You know Segway, those little things, Segways that you can...
Good fun, yeah.
Yeah. I now been riding Segways in Liverpool for the last 6 months. I've heard from people around me, heard from someone else that's said something else. They were talking about tailors, and they were like, "Oh, we're in this building," and someone said to them, "Oh, is that where the Segway tailor is?"
Segway tailor, yeah.
And I'm like,
same things happen to you.
This is interesting, because it's kind of I'm a Segway tailor, and when I'm on Segway and have it my bag with my branding on and go and deliver customer shirt or suit or something like that, and I'm on the Segway, like, no joke, but it's like there is dozens of people with phones recording me, just showing that to look what's happening here, So we're living through that age of that happening to your brand, and I wish that on everyone else. Right? Does that mean that I'm going to somehow now going to be super famous, super wealthy because of that? Maybe yes, maybe not. Who knows? I kind of control it. I don't. I can use it. I may not. We'll see. But it's not something that I would lose my sleep over. If something comes out of that, great. If not, that's also okay. Do I talk about it publicly that I'm a Segway tailor? Yes, but I don't think that anyone in Liverpool that is a tailor is going to jump on a Segway and do the same, because it's kind of mine.
You own it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's part of you. It probably represents you as an individual, that you're a bit clever. You like clever ways of transport, and that is part of your wider brand. There was another couple of things that you said, and I was kind of starting to think about the technical term differentiation with the tuxedo plumber. He differentiates himself, and then you said to make yourself different. It's the same.
Correct.
And then the other element is marketing or branding can't disguise that. It's got to be genuine, and that's very much the lesson I like to get across. Don't think that this is all just some veneer that we can paint over the top. If you don't actually act your brand, then it's all just fake,
I agree. I very often bring up this movie to this perspective. Movie that's called, it's one of those days. It's Magicians, but it's something called. It's Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman. They are like twin brothers, and they like trying to outdo yourself magic.
Oh, I've not seen that one. It's not saying meaning anything.
It's going to come to me. But there is a scene there that I always talk about. There is a scene where they both come in. The Prestige. That's the one. Thank you so much, Dominica. The Prestige.
Well done.
Right. So there is a scene where the Chinese guy, who they're going to both go and watch to see his tricks, he's kind of walking funny on the stage, and he's got like big cape. So, he's walking funny on the stage, and he's doing some magic tricks, and, like sort of big fishbowl disappears. And they're like, no way that he's got that fishbowl between his legs, but you cannot see this because obviously it's all big cape that he's wearing. So you're like, let's have a look. If he walks like this normally in his real life, or while it's just a walk stage, that he's definitely going to have that sort of ball in between his legs. That's why he's walking funny on stage. But let's see if he's walking in normal life. So they sat there behind the scenes, kind of waiting for hours for this Chinese guy to come off the theater to go and jump in a car and go. And they sitting there watching him, and he comes off that theater walking like this. And they both look at each other thinking, wow, we've been fooled, because we thought that that's a walking stage. And it turns out that, of course, he anticipated that people could actually watch him after, people could actually do what they've done. So like stay there and watch him, and kind of, so he was still acting. That was still part of his act, carried on hours after the act has actually happened. And I think that's absolutely mind-blowing. Think about this, that all of your customers are only going to be showing this marketing bit, the branding bit, the bit. It's only because I've got an interview with you today, and we talking, and we having a chat. That's the only reason why I'm wearing a shirt and a tie and a suit, right? Normally I'm sitting here in a t-shirt. No, I'm here every day like that. I go to the shop like that. I pick up my daughter from nursery like that. It's not because, is this the most comfortable gear I would ever wear? Yes, but that's because I like wearing it. But also, but probably tracksuit is a lot easier and nicer and better. But why not just because this act goes above and beyond just 9 to 5? I'm sitting here, and if someone comes in, I'm here. If not, I can sit here in tracksuits. So I think that's the point that a lot of people are missing. They're missing the fact that they are great plumbers, for instance. They doing the good service, but then they driving recklessly from the customer to their home because they're late, and all of a sudden someone is filming them that their van is going 60 at 30, and the entire brand is kind of ruined because of that, right? They don't think that they are their brand. They have to be thinking about this all the time. It's like a Chinese guy in the Prestige movie. He's thinking about that other people can watch him right now. That's why he's doing that. It's crazy. Crazy people forget this.
That's a really good point about that consistency or being 100%. There was another word, if you don't mind. I'm kind of picking up on the stuff you're saying. It's great. I'm really enjoying having this conversation with you. Is how you said that is the most comfortable clothes to wear, and there's two elements to comfortable, isn't there? So there's the physical comfortable, and I'm with you. Maybe joggers at some point are easier, but there's a something that somebody is comfortable with at more a sort of psychological or emotional level, because it just fits with them, their persona, with their self. Not exactly their physical self, but their self. And that's obviously true for you, that you're just like, no, this is me, and I feel right, being properly dressed, in inverted commas, if you like.
I agree. And, we sometimes talk a lot of, obviously, people are asking me about branding and about what I do and how I do things online and what do I think about them, how should they act? And even yesterday I had a chat with the driving instructor, a friend of mine, a client of mine, and he was saying to me about, maybe I should change branding for this. And I was like, why? Like, tell me about this. Like, it makes no sense if you just want to change it because you want to change the logo. Like, that makes no sense. But I said to him, like, okay, if you want to change something, maybe change to something that no one expects. I don't know, have pink, let's say, all over your content, but just live that pink in a sense that all of a sudden your maybe inside of a car has to be happy. Maybe give pink kind of, I don't know, diaries to people. Maybe wear pink, like live this. Like just changing this because some guru on the stage told you that changing branding to pink and logo is going to sell more. It won't until you actually start living this and start being and thinking about this. And And what does that color represent? Why do you want to, like, a lot more things than changing color and, you know, and the logo, you know, and things like that. And I know you know this because I've listened to your podcast, so I know that you truly believe in that it's not about changing the logo.
Yes, you will have heard in there then, Michael, one that I use as a talk, I've used it as a podcast, use it as a guest, and I say you cannot rebrand. And that's because in the way that I see it, there's so much more to it. And actually, because your brand resides in your consumers' heads and hearts. It's what they think of you. So I totally agree with your colleague, friend, you know, the advice to say, well, look, remember, it's not just the logo, it's all those other things. But I've got two questions rolled into one for you here. Now, one is, I'll make a point. If you ever stop working as a tailor or couldn't, I think you've got a future as a brand strategist. So I think you'd be great at that. You've got it. You've got so much really good thinking and things to say in that. So I guess kind of rhetoric question, would you ever consider that? But
is that a job offer? Is that
well, there you go. There you go. Live on the podcast. I think that's the first. So well done. We'll take that offline. Now listen, but kind of associated, and I'm flipping it around here, but it's not a pitch. But so asking you, how do you then scale this brand, your brand, because it's got huge potential?
Amazing question, because this is a question that it's been in my head for a long time. And that's kind of, my wife keep asking me this question, like, okay, so it's only you. So how are we gonna make all those millions that you promised me once, you know? And it's kind of a very good question, and it's kind of keeps me grounded and keeps me kind of sane. But one thing for sure is that I ask for advice. That's one thing that I think a lot of people don't, because they think they know everything. And I think that's the first thing that is super important for people, to have that humility to ask. So I do that. So that's good, I think. But I think it's always going to be like that. And whoever I talk to, and I'm going to start working also, maybe even this year, with a business coach. So I figured, and that's a funny story. Quick side note. We're going to answer your question.
Go for it.
A business coach. Why do I want a business coach? Well, I work a lot with footballers. So footballers is one of those categories of clients that are somehow drawn to me, drawn to my brand, drawn to, you know, it's kind of like you work with one footballer, you work with 7, you work with 70, you work with 100. You know, it's kind of, they understand that you're not going to go there and take selfies with them. And, you know, they understand that you kind of trustworthy, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I remember one of my best clients, a guy called Roberto Firmino. He's a footballer for Liverpool Football Club. For those people who like and follow football, they will know him. And I remember I was at his house. We were just measuring something and just trying some garments. And he asked me a question. He said, like, so who's your coach? I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean who's my coach? It's like, and he was like, what do you mean you don't know what I mean? Who's your coach? And, you know, he started laughing. He was like, no, I've got no coach. Like, what do you mean? I don't need a coach. And then he was like, okay. And then I started thinking about this. Like, okay, hold on a second. He still is probably top 10. He was top 10 footballers in the world. Yet he goes in twice a day and kicks the ball, and coaches looking at him and telling him, you did it wrong. You did it better. So he is a top 10 player in the world. Like, imagine I'm top 10 tailor in the world, right? And he's having a coach twice a day telling him what to do. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me think about this for a second. So I'm thinking I know everything. Maybe I don't. Maybe I need a coach. Maybe I need someone to tell me what to do. Maybe there are things that I don't know. And I've been starting thinking about it, starting analyzing, starting thinking, you know, I don't know everything. You know, what's my customer acquisition cost? What's my earnings before tax and amortizations? Every month? What, like things I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, don't ask me these questions. I don't know. Ask me about branding, marketing, and talk to me. Sweet. But otherwise, I don't know, right? And you think, I need a coach. I need someone to tell me about those things that I don't know. And this brings me on to the point about kind of what are the steps? Why am I here? How do we scale this? What do we do next? With this coach, we need to kind of sit down and think about this. And that's going to be one of the questions we're going to be thinking about is, okay, how do we scale? One of the things that I'm super passionate about, that's why Dominica is here as well. She only started last week, is that I want Bespoke Shirt Club to be this multinational, multi-million-pound brand. What I mean by this is people like you, people like anyone else who's listening to this, they're still going to be doing Zoom calls if we still live in this reality. Maybe they're going to do more face-to-face as we sort of progress through this. But shirt is one of those things that they will need. They got options. They can go in and buy their own stuff, using the normal Marks and Spencer or whoever outlet they use. There are other retail outlets that sell shirts, not only Marks and Spencer. But imagine that you can have that, or you've got a choice and you can say, I want to have something better. I want to have something that fits me properly. I want to look good. I want to have my own name printed on the cuff. I want my kid's name and the special date printed on the cuff. I want nicer fabrics. I want this. I've been living in this bubble for far too long. I want to. So now this me opportunity. I will always be face of this. I don't think it's ever going to be, unless something drastically is going to change, that I will step aside, step down. You're always going to see me talking about Bespoke Shirt Club. Now, there could be 17 other people doing the thing, and, but it's always going to be me. If you're going to order a shirt from me, rest assured, I'll send you a message on the phone, me videoing, hey, thank you so much for ordering a shirt with me. It's going to make you amazing. Right? You're always going to have that touch with me. And I don't know what would have to happen for that to stop. Because that's scalable, obviously to a point, but maybe if it's too far, maybe I don't want to be there. I don't want to have maybe, I don't know, 100,000 shirts a month. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe that could happen when someone's going to take over. I don't know, like Dollar Shave Club was taken over by Gillette at some point, and things like that, where they could scale only that far, and then the multi-billion-pound company took them over and just, took them somewhere else. So, but I want to get to a stage where I still have got capability to be one-on-one with you, talk to you on the phone, record messages, thanking you for the customer and the business. But yet, I don't think I'll be the one who's actually measuring you and typing your details in. I think that's going to be someone else. So I think that's the scalability in answering your question about how do we take this? Because there is only one me, and I understand this, and that's also always going to be there, but that's a unique selling point that I have that no one else has. And that's always going to be the case. And I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried at the fact that how do I scale to 100,000? Hold on a second, I'm not there yet. Let's not worry about this now. Many people worry about how should I name my business so it's easily pronounceable? How should I domain by this or this? Why does it matter? Like, what does Google mean? Nothing before it becomes Google, right? It's kind of one of those things like, as long as people can somehow pronounce it, it's okay. It doesn't really matter. You haven't built anything yet, and you're spending weeks debating whether this color on the logo is better than this. Do something. Don't be,
I think action is the most important thing in that point there, in that case there, Michael. You're absolutely right. Now, if I could just add a couple of things, if you like, and I love how we're just sort of sharing ideas and learning from one another in here. I think you're totally right. So looking at your screen just now, you've got your signature below the brand name Bespoke Shirt Club. And I totally agree with you. Yeah. You're so important that needs to stay, and you need to stay in some part of the brand, because your story is great.
I agree.
Great, and everything you bring to it. But right, it was a bit conceptual. How do you scale that up? And I think you're right. In this day and age, there's ways and means that you hand over some of the repetitive tasks, but lovely if you can stay involved, because I think that's what's the mistake that the founders do make. And I listen to a lot of podcasts like How I Made That with Guy Raz. I don't know if you ever listened to that. And
I've heard of the guy. I haven't ever listened to his podcast, no.
It's good. And what you hear is this huge growth story. And then the founder at IPO or something, they get pushed into the background. A new chief exec comes in. And actually what happens often is that they fail over the next 5 years. and the founder has to get wheeled back out, because that's what people connected with.
Crazy.
You know, your energy, your philosophy, your level of service. So yeah, that's pretty clear for me. But it sounds like great strategy. Sounds nice. So I'll keep an eye out for that. The other thing about the coaches, you know, I think you put yourself down. I think you do know all those things, but a good coach just asks the right questions or gives the right guidance to help you uncover it yourself. You know, you know that.
Yeah, and I know my weaknesses as well. Like I even when we had a sit down here with the coach and we were start chatting, how do I put it this? I need to find a coach that's going to talk down to me, because I'm like, don't talk to me about marketing, or don't talk to me about this. Like, let's focus on things I don't know. Like I'm better marketing than you are, so stop talking and giving me lessons about this. So let's focus about. So I think I need to find someone, and I think I found someone. So we'll see. I'll let you know. But it's kind of someone who's ready to be hit by a truck, and I'm the truck, who's ready to kind of face the challenge of me asking them difficult questions and saying difficult things to them and say, why do you want me to do this? Like, this is crazy. Like, that doesn't fit in. Like, as opposed to a lot of businesses will just accept coach and say, yeah, I think you're right. I think, yeah, we should change it. I'll be like, no, let's not do this. Let's do this instead. But how can you help me do this? So it's even as if I'm qualifying a coach to work with me. So it's kind of, are you the good level? Are you the partner in this? Like, you know, even in that, because I know what I'm bringing with me and my energy and things. And I just don't want to have a guy that just wants to tick the box and say, oh, I've got another coaching client. Oh, it's another hair salon. I'm not another hair salon, you know. And it's kind of, oh, who do you think you are, Michael? But I know I'm not another hair salon. That's what I'm trying to say. And I know where I want to be. So it's kind of one of those things. So with the coach, and I agree with you, you have to be careful. And many people said that to me, so they must have had similar experiences where they said, be careful for coach not to crush your enthusiasm and your power and your kind of ability to change people's minds because of the way how you say and what to say, and the enthusiasm and power that comes from that and with that. So it needs to be the right partner. I would view them as the right partner for the business, even though they're not going to have any stake, but they kind of, you in there with me. If you're not, we just have to find someone else. You know, you have to be living and breathing Bespoke Shirt Club, because that's what I need you to do. And you know, we even didn't talk about money. Money is kind of completely secondary thing. Like we don't need to be talking about how much these things cost. You know, like how much coaching costs. It doesn't really matter.
No, I mean, if you get the right one, they'll bring a lot of value to you. But good luck to them. Good luck to you, if you find that, because you're going to make them work. So good for you.
Yes.
I'm going to start to wrap up here. You know, the interesting thing is that I thought that we were going to do one of our music episodes, and that I was going to ask you about your favorite music. But you know, we can park that, and I think we'll do that another time.
I'm pretty sure you've got the skill and the ability to play some music in between what we say.
I'll do that. I'll wrap around some music around based on what we've done.
Yes.
But this has been, it's been really good for me. Thank you very much. Listening to
really good for me. Thank you so much. I love doing that. Thank you so much. Please make sure you also kind of, if you have got any questions, I mean, shirts aside, like if you have any questions, I do believe 100% in LinkedIn. One thing, just to wrap up, I know we have to go. I have to go as well. I've got something at 3, so in 3 minutes. But LinkedIn, if you're thinking about one thing that you should be thinking about focusing right now, it's November 2020. If you listen to that in 3 years, you will see that I was right. Put all of your eggs in LinkedIn basket. Forget about Instagram for a second and Facebook. Run Facebook ads if you have to, but put all the efforts on LinkedIn. I have grown massively my business on LinkedIn only in 6 months' time. I spend money. I got coached by top level trainers on LinkedIn to tell me exactly what to do on LinkedIn. And now I moved from I don't know, no one's seen my post. I was even saying to Dominica today, like I posted a picture of a suit today, nothing fancy, just a 3-piece suit. And it was like 180 comments and 250 likes, and 7,500 people saw this, and it's just nothing special. And you think, just focus, whatever you think is, focus on LinkedIn. Go to see Finley, go to see other people if you have got questions about LinkedIn. I'm passionate about LinkedIn. I think is the only thing for business people to be focused on right now, full stop. And if you're spending time anywhere else, stop, delete all the other apps and focus on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is opportunity is crazy at the moment.
There it is. There's the soundbite. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. Michael, thank you very much for talking to us, and keep in touch, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.